And there's a place that I've dreamed of, where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream, you know what I mean.
Right there, Camp McIntosh.
Camp McIntosh, indeed, Mike. And I want to hope that you are having, at least by the pictures that you've been sharing, you've been having a great time out in BC. But we look forward to getting you back so that we can get out some prizes from the Compare Conquer All Challenge, but also just so we can get ready for the CFN Fish Off, which we'll be talking about. It is Monday. It is a Monster Monday. And, of course, Camp McIntosh, if you are looking to book your butt in a bed, we'd love to have you. September 23rd to the 27th. All the information is there on the poster. If you need to get a hold of Tracy or anybody else for that matter, please get a hold of me, or you can talk to the camp directly, and there is all the information you need. We'd love to have you. As I said, we still have room. There's still room available, and there's some incentive for you to join us coming next month. As I said, it is our 5th annual CFN retreat up at Camp McIntosh. We're really looking forward to it. It's always a good time. The fishing is always top shelf. I want to get through these announcements real quick, because just in case Steve's listening, I don't want to be too long. So part of the incentive for you folks to come to any of the retreats is, of course, your chance to win a Stella. And, of course, be named as the Stella Stud, Stella Queen winner. And so far, we have one person in particular that has already taken home this claim. Of course, that's Ken Davidson. And I want to thank everybody involved in making this happen, because it was a really cool story. But Ken especially, great angler, great individual. And on the last day, managed to surpass our good buddy Dean Howard with a 15.5-inch sucker. And that's the allure of the fish off. That's what makes it so interesting. And of course, we're going to be doing the same thing at Camp McIntosh. So for all those who are going to be attending, of course, you have a chance to win a Stella. And it's basically the most combined inches from the most species. So the idea is to go out and catch as many species as possible and just make sure they're really, really big. But we also have a great prize pack that's going to be offered up by Fish Hawk and our good buddy Jim Wilson, who went to Horwood, and of course Chesapeake, the Okanagan guide, who is taking folks out for multi-species, but namely lake trout. These 2 charters will be randomly given away at the end of Camp McIntosh right here on CFN Live. So we're going to gather up all the names from both the Horwood retreat as well as McIntosh, and we will find out who's going to be the winner of a day out on the water with both Jim Wilson and Jay Chesapeake. Looking forward to all that. Of course, what I did mention just before, the third opportunity for you to win a Stella is, of course, the CFN Fish Off. It is going to be happening Labor Day weekend. Mike, once he gets back, he's got a lot of decisions with me to make, but it is going to be happening Labor Day weekend. It will be uploaded to Anglers Atlas, so for all those looking for the link, it's probably not there just yet, but should be there, I'm hoping, by the beginning of this weekend, so folks can get signed up, because as I said, Labor Day is fast approaching. Hard to believe. It's almost Labor Day weekend. I have a hard time fathoming that. Like, we were just talking about the lakes opening up, and here we are talking about Labor Day weekend. Anyway, of course, to continue on, I want to thank everybody who has downloaded the CFN app. There are lots of upgrades that are going to be coming with this app, and I will say this, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It is better that you get signed up sooner than later, because we are probably going to establish a line where those who have already signed up to show your support, you might be offered things that won't be offered to folks that sign up after a certain date. So Folks, get signed up. It's very simple. Go to www.cfnapp.ca. Get yourself registered. As I said, it is a tool for those who are looking to educate others on where to fish, what to fish, and how to fish from a legal standpoint. So please, by all means, make sure you download that and let's start educating a lot of people around Canada. I also want a big shout out to the Lazo family. I had the privilege and honor of emceeing the Hearst Walleye Mini Challenge. It was a great field, and it was an exciting end because it literally was the last fish that was caught that won the tournament. So it was really cool to be a part of this. And of course, I'm allowed to call her Mills because I can't say her name correctly. It's Milianne, I believe, is how you're supposed to spell it. Milianne. Milianne Lazo went out with her dad for the first time in a tournament. Milianne has always been someone that has helped out, volunteered, and done a lot of work with her mom, Christelle, behind the scenes. This was her time to shine, and did she ever. This team, Sebastian and Mills, went out and not only caught the biggest fish on day one, but also caught the biggest fish on day two, and then eventually took home the championship. So really cool that young Mills had a chance to fish with her dad, but not only that, won a tournament. And for those who saw the Long Lock tournament, young Sam, who won with Miguel, his dad, became very, very emotional. And I know Sebastian, although he probably won't appreciate me mentioning it, did become very emotional at the conclusion of this event as well. So big shout out to the Lazo family. Well deserved. And of course, last but not least, and I'm doing this to appease Steve, because as I said, I know sometimes the announcements lag on, but we need to get some of this information out there. And the NCAA, which is the North Channel Walleye Open, is happening September 18th to the 19th. For all those who are going to be in the Spanish area, we'd love for you to come out to the marina. It's the municipal marina right down by the water's edge. By all means, you are more than welcome to join us. And there'll be a mini expo going on inside the complex. And, of course, a lot of fishing outside the complex. Lots of great stories, lots of fun, lots of things that are meant to stay up in Spanish. But needless to say, we'd love to have you there and experience some of the fun that we're going to be enjoying. It's a great facility. It's a great field, some great people, and we are honored to have all of them. Let's take a look and say hello to the important people, which are in the comments. And not to say that nobody is unimportant, but those who are joining us tonight, let's give a shout out. How you doing, Stephen? Nice to have you. Joe Vitani, how you doing, pal? Eric is with us, the one and only tie. I'm telling you, this gentleman knows how to tie a fly or three. Jeremy, I'm honored to have you as well. Dean Howard's in the house. How you doing, Dean? Nice to have you along. Lloyd's in the house as well. Shane Richard's with this. The notables. Always nice to have Adrian as well. Aaron, nice to have you. Always an honor and a pleasure to have KBC along with us. And I will say, every time that we have a live with these folks, it's always a lot of fun. And we're always giving stuff away, which is really cool. So, as I said, as much as it's important to be a CFNer, it's also important if you are a kayaker to join KBC, because they've got some great stuff that they're doing, as we have done our very best to promote throughout the years. Eve, I'm going to share your announcement for the big man, Big Jim. He's going to be coming up very, very soon, and we will talk about that. Counting down to the fantastic. This is what I love to hear. Fantastic stuff. Jeff's in the house. Joe's here as well. Jim Fowler's along. We've got Pete LeDuc. We've got John. We've got a full house. Well, you know what? Let's get to it. Let's not delay, and let's have some fun. Big Jim coming up right after this.
When he was born, he tried to reel in the umbilical cord. Bass named him as their personal best. His power pole came with a stripper. Forward-facing sonar uses him to find fish. Chuck Norris is his co-angler. He is the most interesting fisherman in the world. Stay fishing, my friends.
Yo, the one and only. Yeah, baby. How's Big Jim tonight?
He's alive.
Okay.
Another hectic week.
Yeah, well, I noticed that you've been busy doing a lot of tying. I've got these sort of uploaded for you, but before we
Uh-oh.
get to that, I want to share something with you because I know this certain someone would really appreciate that I'm doing it during your segment. But Eve managed to catch his personal best.
I saw that. Way to go, buddy. I was all excited for him when I read that. Yeah.
It's awesome to see, and as I said,
A smile on his kisser, eh?
right? Like that's kind of what it's all about. And Jim, I know you've caught a 5-pounder. I know you've caught a 6. What is the largest largemouth bass that you've caught?
That was a girl. Oh, no.
Wow, off the
asked
rails
for it?
already.
Yeah.
What's the
Okay.
biggest largemouth you've caught?
10-14 to 10-8, 3 casts apart.
Wow.
Yeah, in Cuba. I swung a 10-14 in the boat.
Wow.
Got
Well,
it coming. Was tail walking. It went around the boat about a half a dozen times. And I told the guy, the guide we were with in Cuba, because you got to be with a guide, eh? I said, there's another one there. It went back to the same little patch of weed. He thought it was weird. I wanted to fish in the weeds on a
There you
bend
go.
in the river that does a 90. And on the outside bend, there's a big weed bed, some green, funny looking green stuff I'd never seen before. I threw a great big Berkeley 10-inch power worm in there and funk right off the bat. But it went around the boat a couple of times. I'd never caught a fish this big, so it was weird, eh? And it started to tail walk, and I just reached down and just kept coming.
Awesome stuff.
Into the boat. Him and the guide, and they had an interpreter in the boat. And the look on the guy's face
Wow.
was priceless. Then I asked the interpreter, I said, hey, why can't the guy fish with me? You know? And so the guy, he said something to him in, I guess, Spanish that they would speak there. And
Yeah.
he said to him, he mentions that to him, eh? And he says something to him, and he looks at himself, and he looks at me, and he goes, I said, yeah, why don't you fish?
That's
And
awesome.
he lit up like a Christmas tree, eh? So he pulled out this old reel. It was an ancient old rod and reel out of this bag that he had, and he put it together. It was like 4 pieces. So that was, I think I told you about this guy before. I gave him a Beastmaster and rod and reel, you know, back then, I guess like $600 or something, but I gave it to him. And the next morning when we were leaving, the guy that was in charge of the whole thing, he shows up at the airport with the rod and reel, and he says, Jim, you can't do this. You can't give him that because it's going to change his standing in the community.
Really?
And you don't realize things when you go to other countries and other places, sometimes, That was just an honest mistake by me. And I just
Very honest mistake, I might add. Like I would have made the same mistake.
Yeah. So nobody was mad or anything.
Wow.
Nobody was mad or anything. But it was funny because when we were leaving the next, there was actually a day in between. It was 2 days later. The next day, all the guys were coming to me, being nice to me, shaking my hand. You know, the guys' wives are smiling at you because I had given somebody a gift. I don't know whether they were hoping I'd give them one or whatever. But,
Right.
for take it away from the guy. So we found out who he was, and we sent him some money.
Which, I know everybody says bring toothpaste, bring toiletries and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, isn't that what it's all about? It's all about the cash.
That's
It's all
especially
about
for these people.
Oh,
Yeah, especially for these
absolutely.
people. Yeah, for sure.
Well, isn't that an
No, but
interesting
that's the biggest ones I ever caught. One cast, I didn't get a bite, and I threw back in, and I got the second one. It was the smaller one. Yeah, we weighed them both too. They were weighed on a Thompson scale, Thompson spring scale. And we weighed them like 4 or 5 times, and the smaller one, it was 10-8, kept weighing 10-9, 10-8, 10-9, 10-8, and then it was 10-8 like 3 times in a row. So the guy looks at me, goes 10-8. I go,
That's hilarious.
I wanted the extra ounce. No, he was laughing, but they were really amused with the scale, how it worked. Although
Right.
it was a spring scale, but it was machined from a big place in the States, This was before we had Bubba scales and stuff like that, The Rapala one and all that.
So I have to ask Jim, and it's a question obviously that Erica asked of
You need
Eve. What did it feel like to catch a 10+ pound.
I went wild.
Wow.
I went wild. I was like Homer Simpson in the boat. They were scared. There was me in the boat, and the other two were at the far end of the boat cowering. I was letting the rest of the boys know down the river a little bit. I let them know twice in like 10 minutes. That's the one that has the picture. One of the fish has a picture of me with the palm trees in the back.
Yeah.
And I'm holding it up with a Sluggo shirt on. Yeah, that was when that was all the rage, eh? But oh my God, that was funny. I posted that picture here one day, and I said on the Sealy's Bay website, you said I had no idea you could catch bass that big here, and people are on there saying, "Oh wow, yeah, my uncle caught a couple like that there once," and all these things and everything else. And then some guy says, comes on and says, "I think Big Jim is playing with us all. Has anybody ever seen a palm tree at Sealy's Bay?" But there must have been about 25 people come on and say, talked about it. It was funny.
Jim, I'm more interested in, unfortunately, your guests and how they reacted to you fist pumping and screaming and yelling. I think that would have been absolutely a sight to behold.
I was off the deep end. I was right out of context. Just as we did today. As I did today. We came home, had to run out and get the groceries and that. And there was an envelope stuck in the front door. I could see there was something in the front door, like it'd been closing the door. And I got a card. It's been made in a computer and everything. It's got the thing glued onto it in the front here, right? And nice. I had submitted a bunch of stuff to the local 4-H club here. And look at the little ones all made it. Oh. All sent a card to me. They sent this to me. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, that'll go in my pile of stuff. My box I have. That will go in it. And I was sitting here looking at this, and I thought to myself, my God, it's what it's all about. The last couple of days I've been fortunate to share time with some pretty high-level people in fishing. And, I had Brian Bickle here today from the Chicago Blackhawks there picking up some jigs from me while he uses a marina not far from here to care for his boat because of how good the marina is. Wow. So he drove all the way from Newcastle to just 15 minutes above me here to drop the boat off it. Wow. He found a rock that wasn't supposed to be there.
It happens. We unfortunately had the same thing happen on our retreat. Unfortunately, our good buddy Jim Wilson found a shoal that was unmarked, and unfortunately, he found the wrong end of it. So it does happen. It does happen. You're 100%. With that being said, you said you talked to Brian Bickle. One other gent that you shared a picture with me of was, of course, Scott Canterbury, and you spent a little bit of time with him too. He
was the elite angler of the year, so we shared a little time. That's right down on the waterfront in Gananoque. He came across the river. It was funny when he got there. He says, "Gussie says hi." Him and Gussie were sitting underneath the bridge at Alex Bay in the rainstorm. There was another one of those wicked like 4-ways and slow down to 40 clicks on the highway type thing that they were sitting under the bridge in. And he came across there, and I was down there. We sat on the picnic bench there and had a talk for about an hour. And I dropped him off a whole bunch of the little secret lures. And he shared. Did I send you the pictures of the fish he caught with them?
No, I haven't seen those. No.
Oh, so yeah, no, he was pretty hyped about when he was getting more. But I mean, he sent me some fish. I mean, look at the size of this thing.
Oof.
Now look at his hand at the front.
Yes.
That's how you tell it's a big fish, eh? But he caught stuff like this all day.
Ooh. Look at the belly on that.
You know why he wanted to win? Well, he came in the National Professional Fishing League one there last year. He came 5th, and he was short of fish on the second day. If he wasn't short of fish, all he had to do was fill out his limit. He would have won. And that's the picture he has with my jig on the one rod that he's holding up. Yeah. But no, he's a gem of a guy. He lives in Alabama, and just a piece of work.
And I'm going to assume that he really appreciates coming up and fishing Canadian waters.
Oh yeah, he loves it. He absolutely loves it. These guys always try to pass on the bit to people when you're talking to them about conservation. And that was something that I noticed years ago when I fished here and we started getting the odd guy. I remember Denny Brower in Aurelia one. No, it wasn't Aurelia. It was Kingston right here. spent took the microphone away from Mark Mandic, and for like 5 minutes, he talked to the crowd, explaining to them that you had to take care of your fisheries here. You couldn't be eating them all. You couldn't, you had to put this was when catch and release became a big thing. And what it did, it transferred a lot of weekend fishermen who owned stringers into tournament fishermen who owned live wells.
Interesting.
And this is the progression that we've taken. And now catch and release is huge. A lot of fish don't go in the frying pan. Nobody has a problem with you taking some, taking a few fish to go home and have a fish fry. But just like when we were talking earlier before we went on here, and you talk, some of these guys out there, they're guiding two parties a day, 2 6-hour guide trips, and they bring in 24 smallmouths in the morning and 24 smallmouths in the afternoon, and they're all 3 and 4. If they catch a 5-pound fish, it's in the bucket, because the people that are out there are paying you the $850 a day to get these fish, and it's stuff like that really puts a hurt on it.
And Jim, I know you get it. I get it. I maybe it's just me, but I have a hard time wrapping my head around folks that like to eat bass. And again, for no other reason than I've had it. I've tried it. I've certainly done things to take the gamey taste out of it and what have you. But it's just not something I would want to eat. But
a bunch of bluegills taste better.
Yeah.
A few crappies, which replenish a little bit easier. A 4 or 5 pound pike out of the St. Lawrence River or Lake Ontario or any cold water lake that's got lake trout in it too. Yeah. 4 or 5 pound pike, not one of these little 2-pound snot rockets that runs around in 3 feet of water. He'll still taste kind of crappy because of the water so warm and everything else. You get a pike that's living down in that 18, 20 foot range or deeper, and 5-6 pounds. There's some good eating right there. That's I have no problem with that. No problem.
Our southern anglers, our southern brothers and sisters, love eating them, they go out with the intent of trying to catch enough to feed the family. And you know what? No, I'm not judging by any means. It's just it's not my thing. Like Lawrence had mentioned, lobster wasn't his thing. Eating bass just isn't mine either. So. It is what it is.
I would never buy a lobster for myself. Tammy loves them, and king crab, she'd fight you for the last one.
Is that right? Eh?
It's that kind of a thing. But I'm a guy, nice big plump shrimp, not these little things that they grow in cesspools and you buy for $5.99 in a circle. I don't know about that, but I'll go and I'll read the bag and look and get some nice ones there that are about, I don't know how many to the pound, but they're big enough to get 2 or 3 bites of it. And those are the ones that you want. Yeah.
True enough. Speaking of time, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I found something really cool today in the garage. I'm still on my purge.
Yeah,
Erica, I like that. I like your coffee cup too, dear. She posted it this morning. I found this. Now, obviously a saltwater type bait. Looks
okay.
This was a storm bait, and it was a prototype of a bait that they made that had a kaolin bait. What am I saying? Storm bait. Storm had stuff that looks just like this.
I was going to say,
This actually came, and it's got styrofoam in it, so you could adjust the tail.
Interesting.
To make it dance different. You want it to go back, you bend it back down.
Interesting.
Things like that. You could bend it down if you were using it on the top. So when you pull it, it would skip up at the back. It was really cool. It was something that they looked at for a while. Then other companies brought it out. They never really released it, but it was just it got out there. It was really, really cool. I found 2 of them in the garage.
Wow.
It was neat.
Definitely a keepsake.
One of those things. That's 25 years or more they've been in the garage. Hidden away. Oh, I found some gems lately. Hey, what I did do is I got myself a new square bill rod rigged up. I chose this one.
Attaboy.
With the 7 reel. That's one of Hiroshi's little baits. And
nice.
One of the Streamside Elite rods on it. Can you read Elite upside down? I can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
In the back. It's funny, because the bait is really small. I want to try it. And so I picked a rod that has a really fast tip. Because you need the fast tip to throw the bait but I lose a little bit of that, that flex you want in the rod, that one big bend. But you got to lose a little bit of that with that rod. It's only 610, but it's the one I picked. And it does have that flex once it loads, but the tip is really, it's like almost like a extra fast, but that little tip is what allows you to get the distance with 12-pound fluorocarbon with a little bait like that. And it's things like that you got to judge when you're, wanting to get the best out of your tackle, finding stuff like that. So it'll be good.
Well, and Jim, as I said, I know CJ Emery really appreciates having you on their team and part of their family. But what you bring in terms of your expertise and how to know when a combo's balanced properly, what to use in certain situations, what presentation requires what size rod, what type of reel. It's not to say that they don't have it, but I mean, your vast knowledge, it just accentuates what they already have. And I'll tell you, I can only imagine what the discussions are around the CJ Emery family.
Yeah, I've had some fun talking about the four rods that are going to have my name on it and everything.
Cool.
I'm looking. I get to pick the colors, the whole deal. Eh?
Wow.
I'm thinking of a flat green, a sort of darker flat green, like you see those flat colors now, with almost a lime green for the wrap on it. I thought that would look pretty kind of spiffy, but who knows?
Awesome.
Hey, message me what you think. Big Jim not here. There'll be too many.
Absolutely. Well,
I'm loving the new job, Joe.
Yeah, you are absolutely. And you know what, dude? Happy and so proud to see you enjoying yourself as you continue to do. And as I said, with a great company, and the fact that basically all hell's breaking loose when it comes to the trade wars. It's nice to have something in-house in our own backyard that's available to Canadian anglers. So that's awesome, bud.
Yep. No,
you've also been very busy tying some of your Forte cowbells and inline spinners.
Oh, the big stuff, yeah.
We did stuff.
Yeah, Pete did the front part of that, the tinsel, and he bent the wire, and that's a bucktail, a single tie that's about probably 7 to 8 inches long, the whole thing. It's hidden in there a little bit, but when that comes through the water, the tail is just dancing all over the place, so there's no need for plastic at the back. So you don't have to keep rigging it gets torn or whatever. It's he took a movie of it and he sent me a note, and all it said was "oof." He said, "What?" And I mean, Pete's a master at this. That's all there is to it. He's an absolute. Wow. And people don't realize this isn't just buy wire, tie hair on a hook, stick a sinker on, and here we go. Like that's almost a 5-ounce tungsten head on that. Jeez. So that bait weighs is between 5 and 6 ounces, and that little sinker that's put on there. There's nothing poured in there. It's all just bent into place in that.
Right.
And then there's some more weighting, but people don't realize how many different how many times it goes through, especially with the big long ones with 2 or 3 coils in them. Putting a weight halfway down, putting a weight 2/3 of the way, putting extra weight at the front instead, and then watching it and see what it does. And all of a sudden you change the weight by 1/2 ounce and the whole thing just gets this thing going. It's sort of like engineering, I guess you'd say, eh? It's not buying some hooks, tying some hair, get a piece of wire, put it on, put six beads of blade, and oh, look at that, I got a new musky lure. It's not that way. I didn't know if you saw the one I was holding up earlier. I got to go down and try this one out the back there as soon as the weeds are gone. But this is huge.
Oh, you showed that one, but yeah,
did I?
Look at
absolutely huge. That thing's like I don't know. It's probably 14 inches long.
Jeez. Now, outside of yourself, Jim, and obviously Dadson, are you? I just thought of this. How many other folks are you tying for? Like
there's quite a few actually. There's a couple of guys around Ottawa here that do it. There's a guy up in I think it's Midland or somewhere up that way. Makes some really nice stuff, but they just haven't gained the notoriety that Johnny Dadson got doing it.
And as I had asked, Dadson was one of the companies that you tie for. How many others do you tie for?
anything else that I do, I do under my own stuff. I put up.
So just Dadson, okay.
Yeah, yeah, the ones. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the only way really to make money at it.
Are you for hire? Can someone like employ you for a custom jig order?
Jigs, yes. I'll stay away from tying coils. I could always be talked into it. The problem is, once again, you want to. I've had guys contact me and say, how much for a coil, and I tell them, I said, well, depending what you want on it, you're looking at $75, $100, and but I can buy a lure like that at LeBaron or not LeBaron anymore, but Sale or wherever, And no, it's not the same. It's the way it's done. It's the way it's all assembled. The way it's going to work. Yeah.
And by all means, go ahead and buy that product, because what the results will be, I would say, a little bit different.
Blades are $5 each. Wow. That tungsten head probably costs $10.
And we all know how scarce tungsten's going to be very shortly. So
the price of it's gone pretty well wild. Some of the stuff in the States now, there was people that had really good businesses selling tungsten jig heads and stuff like that, and you just see them just disappearing.
Give us an idea, Jim, and I mean, not to turn this into a political thing, because I don't want to, and I know you don't either, but prior to, let's say before COVID, what would something like this typily sell for, and what would it sell for now, in your best estimation?
On Dadson, it's probably not that much difference, because it's an insiders club. You have to be welcomed in.
Gotcha.
Two or three people have to speak for you. It's that type of a thing, and they've got, I think it's just under 500 guys have access to this stuff.
Wow.
So you can, if I was to tie 100 a year, it's still not even scratching the surface of what these guys would get, that type of stuff. I mean, Johnny makes a ton, but these guys are doing it for a living. Pete isn't doing it for a living, but he puts a lot of time. If he's not on the water, cutting grass or working out, he's tying.
Jeez.
And he just does it. It's just a passion. When I get going on it here, tying musky things, I'm rejuvenated. It's like I am about being with Emery right now. You just feel like everything's new, and it just feels good. And I hadn't done coils. When Johnny called me and said, "Hey, you want to tie coils for me?" I said, "What, fell on the floor?" This guy runs in, and he tied stuff, and he had it up, and he put it up for sale, and he said, "I know this isn't Big Jim's quality, but."
Well, speaking of Big Jim's quality, it is an honor to share a rack with you. As Adrian has mentioned, our bucktails are on the same rack together at Tremblay's.
Cool.
That's a feather at Adrian's cap, I'll tell you. That's awesome to hear. Great stuff. So, obviously these go to Dadson. Some go to the auction, and they can reap all kinds of rewards in terms of price, but typically on an auction they go for, as you mentioned, $75 to $100 or even more.
Oh, no, on the page it would be around 300.
Okay. Whoa.
That's for a straight auction.
Wow. $300.
Like $285, you're paying $285. Now a lot of times they do it like a ticket is $10 or 3 for 20, and they do draws that way, and that's the way sometimes it gets out of hand. Something goes up that guys like the look of, they might look at that and go, and then they all want to, they're all throwing down their $20. Yeah, no, it's musky guys are a different crowd, and we've got the cream of the crop. Some of these guys are just tremendous musky fishermen, plus they're great people. They're just really, really good salt of the earth people too. A lot of them happen to have a lot of money, as a lot of musky guys do. I mean, when you see some of the guys at CanCast there coming out, I talked to one guy there. He had a bag of stuff, and I said to him, "Geez," I said, which part of the house did you sell?" Joking to him, right? And he says to me, "I shouldn't have went to the musky building." I said, "Why?" Because the expo's there. I said, "How much did you spend?" He said, $800. He's carrying it in like a white grocery bag, like you carry, it's all in there, $800.
Jeez.
I told him, I said, I need 100 from you right now, or I'm going to text your wife when you get home.
Yeah, I can see you doing that. Absolutely, I can see you doing that.
Not my style.
No, I hear you. With obviously, as I said, Jim, we were talking about it just at the forefront of the show tonight, and I can't believe it's almost Labor Day weekend.
Oh man,
you and I-
yeah, it's funny you should mention that. I was driving to Ottawa on when was it? Saturday? No, I forget. It was a couple of days ago. So I drove to Ottawa in the morning. I came right back, and I was about halfway there, and I thought to myself, the long weekend is just coming up here now. And I was like WTF to myself, like it's gone, and I just made a comment to someone the other day that was talking about how fast things seem to be going for them. And I said, how old are you? And they said 41. And I burst out laughing. And I said, you think you're going fast now? You better have a windsock behind you there, because you're going to see what fast is. I cannot believe. Like, I had a list of things I wanted done this summer, and I've done 3/4 of them, and I thought for sure I'd be way ahead, like way ahead. I'd have it all done and be doing other stuff. I still have 1,000 jig heads to count or to paint for bucktails, just the black ones, because I still do the black. I have 1,000. I got them all in the card scope, the way I paint them there. I got them all carded. That took probably 5 hours. So it's well, not 5, probably 4, but
you're so right, Jim. And as I said, I need a moment. This is a perfect segue for Steve and Walter, who do a lot of, they're doing the majority of the edits for our page. If I was still doing that, there's no way I would get some of the stuff done that we've managed to get done. So a big salute and tip of the hat to those two for helping out in a huge way. But to your point, yeah, like I have to ask, with it being, close to the kids going back to school, close to, getting to that point where you're going to close down the cottage, close down the trailer. Yeah, I'm stunned, because it seems like just yesterday you and I were talking about, where fish are going to be staging at this time of year because it's taken a while for the ice to go out, this, that, and everything else. And here it is, Labor Day weekend. We're almost there. Unbelievable.
I was sitting here on Sunday afternoon, and it was pretty windy. Well, it was really windy, and it wasn't that hot. I had the door open. You know where I am. I had the door open, and I can see the road behind the truck there. And the number of boats that I saw come out with the green slime on the bottom of them on trailers, go up that hill that I just happened to catch sitting here, was beyond. It was like maybe a dozen. And I'm not talking about a guy with a Lunder or Ranger that just went bass fishing for the day. I'm talking about boats that have been, big pontoon boats, stuff that was in all summer, and they're pulling it in already. And it's not that it's perfect boat. There's lots of water. Like I had a couple of guys I took the boat out because the water was too low. It's down 6 feet. Oh, water's not down 6 feet. Or the docks would be dry in town, and the boat launch wouldn't exist. But they get up on stuff like that. But the boats I saw come out of here, there was one there. I'm not kidding. It was like watching those tankers in the St. Lawrence go by. It just passed here forever. It just seemed to go by forever, and it was just dripping green because they just taken it out. But no,
unreal.
Yeah,
unreal. So with that, Jim, let us know, what are you up to this week? What have you got planned?
Well, tomorrow morning I have got to go to the dentist, get my teeth cleaned. I got to fix a filling there. I blew a little piece of a buzz off, Andrew.
And it is true. I mean, the way things are going, holy smokes.
Yeah. But I got the dentist in the morning, and then I got to do emails for the fall issue. And we got a whole bunch of new stuff coming in the fall issue. I got some new writers. I got some great content, like some fantastic stuff. And it'll be really, really good. I'm excited about it myself. And then on Wednesday, I got to be around the house here. I have a guest from Kenora, who's currently practicing for a very big tournament on the St. Lawrence in Lake Ontario.
Boom.
He has to bring his wife over to the train station in Kingston to go to Toronto to fly home to Kenora. So when he drops her off at the train station, he's coming up here to sit in the lawn chair. So
Would
we'll spend
this
the time-
gentleman have spots?
Oh,
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
we have a picture of me dreaming about him holding a trophy.
Yes, I do believe we have that somewhere. Yes, there is that somewhere.
My buddy Gus, is going to come for a visit. He's up, and he hasn't been to the house here yet. Whenever I've been with him around here, I've met him at boat launches and stuff. Hey, so it's good to have him just come to the house. But plus, he said, I want to feel the power of the lawn chair. And it'd be so funny if he sat in the lawn chair and he won this week, eh? Next year I could sell tickets. They'd all be here.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Lord.
I know I'd be first in line. I do have to ask a question. And this all, I'm so glad that Joe brought this up because he mentioned it in the comments here. You need to explain to me who it was that all the mothers and fathers back in your era were thinking of when they named their child James, because obviously Jim is what comes out of it. But what James back then spawned everybody to want to call their child James? Like we had Jim Tietzel, we had Jim Wilson, we had a bunch. What was it back in the day that drew everybody to the name James?
I don't know. It was my dad's name, as far as I know.
There you
Because
go.
he was James too. That's
There we go. We got another James. We've got so many James.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Hey James, how are you?
It's a very popular name, and it certainly was at Horwood. And I thought, who was it back in the day that just drew everybody? Oh,
yeah, I can't think of a. Well, I would have been halfway done, so to speak, at that point. Like,
Oh, so maybe it was you. Oh, you're thinking it was you.
I don't think so.
Wow.
Funniest thing ever when I was younger, Tammy and I, we moved into this townhouse development. This was in the very beginning when I thought I was going to be a professional fisherman.
Yeah.
And we moved into this place, and like a year after, there was 3 other couples that lived there that were young couples, and they all had kids with red hair, and there was nobody else on the block with red hair.
Take that. Jim, as always, pal, it is a pleasure to spend 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours with you. As I said, can't thank you enough for all that you bring to our community and continue to bring to the industry. You certainly are a mentor, a leader, and someone that we can all look up to. And
Appreciate that, buddy. Thursday, I get the truck wrapped, Thursday morning. And then
Nice.
I get... on Friday, I'll work on the paper more, and then on Saturday, I'm going to head down to Trenton to the Bass Nation and spend the day with the guys from Streamside, and they're going to have a little booth there if it isn't a rainstorm. And because I decided to go, they took the rain out of Saturday, so that's twice now my threats to weatherman have worked on events like this. So it's cool. Only for the day I'm going to be there, though.
Stay tuned for a call from the folks at CISA. I will give you that heads up as well.
Okay.
All right. Jim, as always, buddy, have yourself a great week. We'll be in touch, but thanks so much for spending some time with us as you do every Monday.
Awesome, Bucko. Everybody be safe out there, right?
Yeah, baby. All right. We got Lawrence coming up right after a word from one of our sponsors. Good evening, Lawrence. How you doing, pal?
Good. I'm doing well.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I thought we would switch things up. And I mean, we don't always talk about doom and gloom, but, when it comes to our coastal waters, we do spend a little bit of time on the negative side of things. I want to share something that happened this past weekend that I got shared several times with, and we certainly want to bring to light and let other CFNers know that may not know There is a tournament that goes on each year out in Nova Scotia, and I believe it's this time or this weekend that it happens every year, and it's the Bluefin Tuna Challenge. It's a tournament that happens, and something special happened this past week that I want to share with everybody. Have a listen.
Really cool story. A teenager in southwestern Nova Scotia has just left her mark in the tuna fishing history books.
I was just thinking, how did I do that? Because I never thought I'd be able to do something like that.
That's 13-year-old Daylin Jacquard talking about her experience competing in the annual Wedgeport Tuna Tournament and Festival. Her big catch, a 711 pounds bluefin tuna, making her the pending junior female angler world record holder. The previous record catch was 618 pounds back in 2014. Daylin was competing with a team of 9 on her dad's boat, and she says she's still reeling in the excitement around her catch and all the community support she's received.
Can you imagine? 700-pound fish.
Yeah. You know,
wow.
Interesting. These tuna, right? You watch Wicked Tuna and the way they reel these fish in. You know, the rod never leaves the rod holder, right? The built-in gunnel rod holder. They stay in the gunnel, and they just reel. And because you're catching fish that are that size, you could lose your rod, you get pulled over the side of the boat so easily. That's why they have those fighting chairs where you strap the person into the chair and then you strap the rod to the person so they don't get, yanked out the back of the boat. But so it would be interesting to know what her setup was.
It would. And I agree with you. And with all the great white sharks they got swimming around those waters, I would definitely want to be strapped in the boat. If I hooked into something like this, I wouldn't worry about reeling it in. I'd be worried about it pulling me out. Yeah. I'd probably, but a 700-pound fish, I'd like to say I'm a third of its weight. It would have a little bit of work ahead of it to try and get me out of the boat, but needless to say, I'm sure it could. And the last thing I'd want to be doing is treading water in the Atlantic Ocean with all those hungry white-tipped sharks running around. No thanks. No, I don't see that as fun, but congratulations to this young lady, because that is quite an accomplishment. And by the sounds of it, the Guinness Book of World Records and maybe the IGFA will be knocking on her door and presenting her with a plaque and some paperwork. And hopefully she's got herself a new world record.
Yeah. The other thing, the International Game Fish Association that tracks these world records, it wasn't that long ago they came out with the junior certificates, to encourage young people to fish tournaments. But a while back, my friend's late wife, set a number of IGFA world records, and she was maybe 5'2", 5'1". She didn't weigh much, maybe just over 110 pounds, and her big challenge was not to let any of the guys on the boat touch the rod while she was playing the fish. And it was all saltwater fish she was doing. And if you, like, for a man or a woman to set a record, you cannot at any point until the leader you cannot let anyone touch the fishing rod, because touching the fishing rod is considered assistance, right? Gotcha. And that cancels your record. So, but do they have the same sort of, for a junior, I mean, you would think they would have, like, how would they manage that? Like, how would someone, a 13-year-old, be able to, reel in a 700-pound tuna without any involvement whatsoever? Would that cancel the record? Does she take the rod out of the holder? How does that work? I mean, there's so many questions.
And I want to say you are 100% right. And if it was anyone else other than a child that did this, and I say child, she's a little bit older than that, but a young person, because a young person did this, we don't scrutinize, nor do we criticize near as much as we would if it was an adult. Because if that was either you or I, there'd be all kinds of second guessing and scuttlebutt going on behind the scenes. Oh, they had a power reel, they were, it was floating on the surface. I'm sure somebody would say that. No way Scotty caught that. It was probably floating on the surface. You're right, but that's what's so genuine. That's what makes it so authentic. when a young person does this. And I think, I think we're onto something, folks. We always talk about getting the youth into fishing. Perhaps maybe this is the new way of getting young folks into fishing. They don't have to go out and catch a 700-pound tuna. But when it comes to big fish, let's face it, there's a lot less scrutiny with young people and big fish than there are with adults. So maybe that's what we should be promoting more of.
Well, can you imagine when they opened up the junior category at the IGFA? And like I said, it wasn't that long ago. So now you had every category of fish, every line class of fish, because it's all done by weight of your, the test of the strength of your fishing line. And so all the records are wide open. You just had to get on a boat and start fishing, and you were calling in records one after the other, right? Until someone came along behind you and caught a slightly bigger fish. So it was the Wild West there for a while. I'm sure, the records were shifting and changing, but it must have been an exciting time. I know I was visiting the IGFA headquarters. Oh man, it must have been 10, 15 years ago. I was helping to run a disability fishing program down in Miami, and we took a busload of people over to the IGFA to meet some of the people and take a tour. And there was talk about having a category for people with disabilities. And I was asked about that, and I said no. I said, what's a disability, right? Like, how do you define that? Like a one arm in a wheelchair, blind, low vision. It would just be endless, right? So, no, I said people with disabilities can fish just the same as everybody else, right? It's you don't need to separate them out. And if you're looking at the Ripley's world records, they don't allow for people with disabilities or differences in people to have different sort of records. I think that women and men can have records, for Ripley's world records, but not according to ability or disability or age or anything like that. I don't think they have junior either. I think it's just if you're man or woman. That's the only distinction they make at the Ripley's.
It was said to me, and I say this with all due respect, because I certainly wouldn't want to offend anybody, and I wouldn't want to divide the room. But I remember back in the day when the Special Olympics was being introduced, and to your point, and I can't think of anybody more appropriate to speak on this. But I remember being asked, and this was a while ago. They said, Scotty, what does it classify to be someone that can participate in the Special Olympics? Is there certain severity that you need to possess? Like what classifies a Special Olympian? And I didn't have the answer. And I'll be honest with you, that was probably 25 years ago, and I still don't.
No, and no, not many people do. And it's different than the Paralympics, right? So the Special Olympics, and I don't even know if they have them. I know in 2015 they were having them in LA, and it's for people with developmental disabilities, people with Down syndrome and things like that, right? So that's what spawned that. And it was just to give kids a chance to, who maybe didn't have the highest level of intellectual development, for whatever reason, but they could still run like a bat, or jump, or to give them a chance to show off their stuff. And it was fun. Did it get a ton of crowds? But, I'm not even sure if it's still going on, to tell you the truth. And then, more recently, after the Afghan war, you had all the Wounded Warrior competitions, right? And all of that stuff that goes on. And so these different flavors pop up now and again, and maybe they last, maybe they don't. And but I think, giving I just think maybe for kids though, there could be like this young lady, her dad owns the boat, right? So, maybe, is he one of those overachiever, overbearing kind of parents, like those hockey parents getting those kids out in a hockey school all summer and hockey private schools in the fall and all of that stuff, just trying to get their kids over that finish line and make them the champion of the world kind of thing? You wonder how much.
Are you suggesting that her father said, "You better reel that in or you're swimming home"? Is that what you're suggesting?
Could you imagine the pressure on her though? Could you imagine?
I can't, dude. I mean, Jim's just sent me a text and said I have a hard time believing that she reeled that in. I had a hard time with a 500-pounder. And
Yeah.
I'm not here to scrutinize nor to judge, but at the end of the day, it's a great celebration for a young girl who is going to be the talk of her town. But here's the best part, and I think this is something that I didn't share with the video. As much as she was proud of her accomplishment, she was more proud, and she couldn't emphasize it enough, how the whole town came together and how they have done this in other occasions that she brought to light. And I think it was just the way she was dealing with it, how humble she was. She realized, the accomplishment and, great for me, but she wanted to celebrate the town. And that is something, if you get a chance to see the entire interview, pay close attention to that, because you can't teach that. A young person, tipping her hat to the town for their support and how they've done this in the past, supporting like that. To me, girl, I don't care if you caught the biggest whale in the ocean. The fact that you paid respects to your town like you did, that's the true accomplishment. That's what her dad should truly be proud of her for.
Yeah, we've had those tournament organizers on the Bluefish Radio podcast, and what they do to promote fishing as a conservation minded, community minded celebration, right? It really is, in every sense of the word, a celebration of the fish, of the people's connection to the fish, to the sea, to the food, all of it, right? All of it. It's just absolutely, we need way more things like that. And, I think about derbies and I think about tournaments, and we'll get into that next, but, these things should be a celebration. It should be a celebration of the connection we have with our fish, with our shoreline.
100%. And as I said, I want to thank CTV for doing a great news article, and of course, emphasizing and promoting what a unique and incredible fishery the bluefin tuna fishery is, and how lucky we are to have it. And of course, it was on full display, as it always is during this tournament. But to get the youth involved in this, I hate to say it, but this is what gets young people involved in fishing. When they get the notoriety, they get their 15 minutes of fame, and they are able to celebrate in an accomplished catch like that. This is the whole reason we started CFN, was to give folks a platform that they normally would not have, and to be featured and promoted, because I think everybody would have loved to have been, a big Jim on all those TV programs, all those fishing shows, but not all of us can, because not all of us can look as good, be as charismatic, and know as much about fishing as Big Jim. And he's not listening. Can you believe that? I said that and he's not even listening.
You look at the personality types of fishing, right? You go to a bass fishing tournament and everyone's so gregarious and outgoing, and it's so much sort of community and camaraderie. Then you go to a walleye tournament and everyone's quiet and not sharing any information at all about where they're going, and keeping everything secret. And it's to different personality types for different species. Muskie, those are loners. People who fish for muskie and for trophy muskie are loners. They don't want anyone knowing what they're doing.
I've often heard it referred to as a cult. Those who are muskie anglers, they are definitely a unique bunch, simply because, of course, to afford the ability to target those fish is something not the average angler can do and certainly afford. But I am amazed, absolutely amazed, at the amount, the size, and the price tag on some of these baits that they use for those fish. It is incredible. So that's my feel-good story. There was a couple other not-so-feel-good stories that we talked about before we went live. We won't bring those up because, as I said, neither one of us really know a lot about it. But
green crabs, red lobsters, blah blah blah.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing. It was an interesting story that was shared to me. Not to get too far into it, but a gentleman's going out each and every day to catch green crab, and he's saying that the green crab is having an adverse effect on the lobster spawn. When they're in there spawning, these green crabs are eating all the eggs and everything else. My question to you was, okay, well, obviously they're an invasive species. Yes, they're a problem. But with that being said, is it legal? Is it ethical to, because he goes out every day and fills his traps and then throws them in a bin and sells them off as fertilizer. And I'm thinking, okay, well, you know what? We're supposed to destroy invasive species. So I guess he's not necessarily doing anything wrong. But can you imagine the trouble we would get in if we were to start to sell goby, like ground up goby for gardens and fertilizer? I think we might get in trouble with that.
Well, I remember there was a story about the Royal Botanical Association in Hamilton, Ontario, and they sort of did a big rehabilitation of this wetland area there to preserve the wetland flora, and they put in a sort of a gate system to keep the carp out. And then they went in and harvested all the carp and just left a giant pile of carp on the shore.
Yeah.
And it was there for days. And I'm thinking, who does that, right? Like, what, how disrespectful is that, just to take these fish out of their habitat and just pile them up like garbage? And they, according to these flower lovers, they were garbage. The carp were destructive garbage and needed to be killed off. So yeah, one man's treasure is another man's sort of garbage, right?
True enough.
Yeah.
True enough. All right. We've discussed this a lot further than I had planned, and I thank you for that, for entertaining the idea. But I know you've got something that you really want to talk about, so let's get to it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this, but I'm a member of the board of directors for a United States nonprofit on the St. Lawrence River. It's so we don't have any conflict with Bluefish Canada because we're not going after the same donors. But it's called Save the River, and they're the home of the Upper St. Lawrence River Keeper. It's in Clayton, New York, so just across on the Thousand Island Bridge there. And the executive director sent me an email, said, Lawrence, help me out here. I'm getting calls every day from property owners in the Thousand Islands who say the fish population is declining significantly, and they all have their suspects that are the cause of this decline. And you can guess, like, so what do you think? I'll throw this out here. What do you guys think the top 5 suspects are from these cottage owners, these property owners in the area? That, many of them have had properties in this Thousand Island areas for generations. Some are coming back, some have been there for ever. But it's one of the oldest cottage areas in North America, I think, and it dates back to well over 100 years ago when the rich sent their families there from New York City to spend their summers on the islands. But what do you think their top 5 reasons are?
So good question.
Find a fish in the St. Lawrence and the Thousand Islands area, and what kind of fish do they say is declining?
So let's wait to find out what the answers are going to be. So folks, if folks who are listening, just put in a comment something that you would see as a reason that this group would be upset and would be basically blaming on the demise of the fishery. I'd be really interested to see what folks take. I do have a couple things that I would imagine are going to pop out, but folks, by all means, please, doesn't matter, Erica, anywhere in the St. Lawrence. No. Erica's saying Brockville area, anywhere along the St. Lawrence. What are out of you said there's 5 key components?
Well, I'm just throwing that out there. Like, what are the top 5 reasons you think? And reasons. And maybe they've been surfing the web, or maybe this is just hearsay and gossip in the community. Maybe these are firsthand observations of people who sit at the end of their dock and go fishing and see what's going on over many generations, many years. So I'm not dismissing their concerns, but it's interesting to hear what they came up with.
John has probably the best answer.
What?
This is what he said. This is what he says, and we didn't even think of this. This is going to catch you completely off guard. They don't know how to catch fish.
You know what, John? I brought this up in my conversation with the executive director today. I said, think about it. These are people that probably still use floats and worms and hooks and weights, and they have the same fish rods in the closet in their boathouses that they've had for years, and they take the kids out on the dinghy and or the power boat or whatever, and they throw some lines off the dock into maybe 6-8 feet of water, and they catch fish. right? They catch fish. That's where they fish is on that edge, on that near shore edge, and 6 to 8 feet of water, just outside the weeds and just before it drops off into deep water. And that's how they catch fish. They have no technology. They're not into, maybe the latest fishing equipment and the latest trends and technologies. They're not investing into bass boats and things like that necessarily. And yet, we've seen this in other lakes and around Ottawa, and you see it in many lakes where there's lots of cottagers, lots of campgrounds on lakes where the fishing along the edge of the shore, where the bobber fishers go, is depleted. But then you go into the backs of the bays where it's 1.5 feet deep of water, and you have to pull your boat through 200 feet of lily pads, and you're pulling out 5-6 pounders. Or you go a bit deep and you find the humps and the shoals, and you're pulling out 4 or 5 pounders. So it's not like there's no fish. There's just no fish along the shores.
Interesting. And great, John. Great comment. That's a great answer. Now, Gary De Silva has an interesting one. I never actually even thought of this one either, but the shipping industry, all the big ships coming in and out of basically the Great Lakes and into the Atlantic Ocean. Well,
the Save the River got its start. It was 30 years ago that an oil freighter hit a shoal and managed to free itself and went down the river some more, and went another ways and hit another shoal, and then finally pulled up into a bay, but managed to travel about 10 miles or 17 or so kilometers of the St. Lawrence River, basically just with oil pouring out of its hull, oil pouring out of its storage tanks. And I think there was 300,000 gallons or barrels. I can't remember exactly. It was a lot of oil. It was winter time. Winter was coming. There was ice already forming on the river, and it was all hands on deck. And everyone came out to mop up oil and to collect oil with whatever they had, buckets, sponges, mops. Everything was pulled out. To every person with a piece of property on the St. Lawrence came out to fight that oil spill. And that's 30 years ago, and you can still find the oil blobs in the beach, in the sand, in the shallow waters. You can still find oil blobs under rocks and things like that. It's still there. That's how this organization got its start. And now, they've been fighting against, this idea of shipwrecks in the wintertime with all the ice, and how oil can spread underneath the ice without any way of stopping it with booms and such. So they're really against, these property owners are really against having shipping year round. But we just heard today that the federal government is announcing the construction of 10 new icebreakers that are going to ensure year-round shipping in the Arctic and in the St. Lawrence.
Interesting. And yes, and what the keynote of that is all the steel's coming from Canada. They mentioned, I think, three steel plants that they're going to be designating for the steel makeup of those ships.
Well, then that's it. And if you can't, shipping to the United States is one thing. You got bridges and trucks. But if you need to ship everything to to Europe and other parts of the world, you can't just say, sorry, we're not shipping anything for the next 4 months. Or, but there's trains that can go to ports and, on the coast and things like that. So it just adds to the cost, right? So I don't know. I don't know all the intricacies of shipping and transport, but they want to keep that St. Lawrence shipping route open and on the Great Lakes year round, and to be able to service foreign markets other than the U.S. So there's a lot of, pushing back against that's going to be hard. But shipping is definitely and has been and proven to be. I mean, ships, people who live along the St. Lawrence River, I have friends and they tell me, about yachts and boats running on shoals all the time. It's an annual event. It's an annual event.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. So shipping obviously made the list. How the fishing itself has changed, as John had mentioned. Would that have been on in the top 5 as well?
The fish, the type of fish. Well, look, carp have been there for over 100 years. Gobies have come, so people are talking about gobies, and people are talking about zebra mussels for sure. But they're not that wasn't really given as a cause. Like, not many people are saying it's the gobies that are killing the fish, or eating all the fish eggs and the nests, or the zebra mussels that are, causing blue-green algae blooms, which we know zebra mussels are responsible for along the shores of the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence. But those weren't connections that were well understood, or didn't come across from the people who are calling in.
Right on. And Erica goes on to talk about how things have changed. Obviously the gobies, but also she's stating that the natural shrimp, which is the canary in the mine, has basically disappeared from the St. Lawrence. That there's not a lot of freshwater shrimp like there used to be.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that, but definitely the food chain has changed, and people look at the perch, and the perch populations have dropped way back. But we got a lot of science coming out of the River Institute, and I know Erica would know that. And she's heard some presentations, because she's always at the River Institute when they have their symposiums and catching those presentations, and very keen on all this science. That we now think that the boom of perch in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s in the St. Lawrence had to do a lot with excessive nutrients fertilizing the growth of excessive weed beds throughout the St. Lawrence River. And because you slowed the river current down with the seaway and all the locks, and then you added a whole bunch of nutrients, and you got literally a farm going on there, growing weeds. And perch love weed beds, and so the perch population exploded. And now we got the nutrient issues are lower now than they've ever been, and because of that, the weed beds in the St. Lawrence River are reducing in size significantly. And what we're going back to is the way it was, the way it had been for thousands and thousands of years, which is far fewer weed beds.
All right, great point.
But that did not come up.
Jeremy brings up another one: increase in temperature. So global warming.
That came up. Yeah, that came up for sure. It came up, and I'm not sure if we have connections to that. Pike are pretty savvy, and they can tolerate a lot of change. Muskie as well. I think when it comes to releasing fish, that can be an issue. And there was people talking about, people have been calling and saying, there's people going out and catching fish in deep water and bringing it into shallow water during tournaments. And then those fish are released, and they're all dopey from the warm water, and they don't survive it. Well, we know there was a fishing tournament maybe about 10 years ago where that was maybe an issue. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was ever really proven to be the issue, but there was a lot of fish mortality during that 2-day tournament. And but I think, I said to the executive director, I said, the ones who are putting on the tournaments, they understand that, going out into Lake Ontario and catching smallmouth bass in 40, 50 feet of water, and then bringing them into the St. Lawrence River, and then having them released into into the river, which is, mostly 6 feet deep, except for the channel, that can be really hard on the bass. So now a lot of those big tournaments, you can't go into Lake Ontario. If you're fishing in the Thousand Islands, you're fishing in the Thousand Islands. If you're fishing in Kingston, you're fishing in Lake Ontario. And you're not going past, because they understand that that's a health issue, and they're managing for that. So there's a lot of science that's been going on. So, that's definitely one that's been put out there for sure.
So temperature, we've talked about gobies and invasive species. We've talked about freshwater shrimp. We've talked about the inability for folks to know how to fish without just a float and a bobber and a worm. So those have all brought it. But of course, Richard brings up something that I'm sure was discussed: the population of cormorants. Has that had an effect on the population?
Oh yeah, cormorants have been called out for sure. And I know, like, fishing tournaments, I'm doing fishing myself in that St. Lawrence and into the Bay Quint. Cormorants were becoming a huge issue. But now, where you saw these islands that were absolutely infested with cormorants and overrun with cormorants, and it was just dead wood and hundreds of birds. Now you go back now and you see 5 eagles sitting in the trees, 5 big bald eagles that have eaten the cormorants. So I think they're getting a beat down. And so I wonder if the cormorants are still as big an issue as they once were, because the eagle population has certainly rebounded. And they love a good cormorant breast meat. That's something they love to eat.
100%. Jason Barnucz, just before we got away from the topic of temperature, he is now saying that there is data suggesting that the yellow perch population decline can be attributed to recent warmer winters impacting the reproduction. We've certainly seen that on the western end of Lake Erie as keynote to that point.
Wow.
But I gotta ask,
yeah,
I gotta ask. Adrian is saying rock bass everywhere. Why so many French River? Well, there's lots up in the French River. I don't know how many there are in the St. Lawrence, but I'm surprised no one has said anything about water levels.
Yeah, and that's a good question, because remember we talked about Plan 2014 coming out in January of 2017. And then 3 months later, there was a giant flood, and everyone blamed Plan 2014. And Plan 2014 was put together by a bunch of scientists and environmentalists and water level managers to minimize the draining off of wetlands in the spring summer season when the pike and muskie had spawned into these shallower bays, to make sure those shallower bays were kept wet for long enough for the spawn to be successful. And because of this very strict water level management regime that the Great Lakes have been on and the St. Lawrence River has been on for many decades now, a lot of these wetlands have been dried out, and the spawning opportunities for pike and muskie have been reduced significantly. And we see the results of that. But so that wasn't raised, and a lot of these property owners want to kick Plan 2014 out because they said it got their properties wet and their houses wet and their boat launches and docks swept away and things, and they don't like it. But there's also the fact, I think, if we get back to invasive species, you see these invasive cattails that have gone into the wetlands along the St. Lawrence River, and they're impenetrable. Like the pike and muskie cannot swim into these in these wetlands that have been taken over by these invasive cattails. So that's a big problem. And there's some other invasive plants as well into these wetlands that are just choking these big fish out. They can't get in. And the Thousand Island Biological Research Station, they've started now creating little channels and pools by pulling the weeds out and creating passageways into these wetlands for the muskie and pike to go into. And they're noticing that the pike and muskie are actually going in there and spawning and having success. So this is a big issue too, for sure.
Just to wrap up this point, just before we bring Jay in and say goodbye to you, because I can't believe that a half an hour is already gone, was forward-facing sonar.
Oh, who came up with that one? You? You. That's a huge one. That's the big one.
Really?
Oh yeah, that's the big one. And this has got everyone galvanized with the Bassmaster Elite final tournament of the year taking place in Clayton, New York this coming weekend. This is the big bugaboo. And they hate it. They think this is killing all the fish. Well, I said, people aren't putting $5,000 sonar systems on the front of their fishing boats to go out and catch bass so they can bring food home for their family. That's not why they're doing it. They're doing it to win tournaments. They're doing it to catch fish. But these are people that are pretty conscientious about returning their fish alive. And I said, and it's, we have Kevin Van Dam came out the other day and said, it's akin to jacklighting deer and with spotlights. And, maybe the fishing pressure is increasing, but is it increasing in terms of fish mortality? I would say, I don't know if that's been proven in terms of bass. It may be walleye, but the walleye population in the St. Lawrence River is doing really well. So I'm not sure if forward-facing sonar, maybe pike and muskie, but I know a lot of guides who use, when you're fishing in shallow water, there's no point forward-facing sonar just shining it into the weed beds looking for muskie and pike. You're not going to see anything. You know where the fish are anyways. And, so I don't know.
I can't believe forward-facing sonar made the list. That's
man, top of the list. Top of the
list.
And tournaments. Next,
okay,
number 2.
I could see that. I can see tournaments, forward-facing sonar, being spoken about at the same time. But for forward-facing sonar to be at the top of the list on its own, wow.
Yeah. Someone's done their homework.
How long's forward-facing sonar been out? Like 4 or 5 years? It can't do that much damage in 4 or 5 years.
No.
I can't imagine. But
no. And then for the first few years, it wasn't that common either, right? It's only getting more and more common in the last couple of years now with the price coming down. But yeah, I think someone's doing their homework, and someone is spreading information. So we're going to take on I chair the St. Lawrence River Fish Health Subcommittee out of the River Institute in Cornwall, and the executive director of Save the River. We're going to develop a survey that we're going to give to property owners in the Thousand Islands and use it as a way of, hey, we hear you, but also, did you think about this? And educating the landowners, property owners a little bit about some of the other issues, that they haven't been talking about, that are more, there's a stronger causation between fish population reductions and human activity.
Well, Jeremy Parker has it all wrapped up. He's saying it's Big Jim's fault. He met way too many of us on how to catch fish.
Yeah,
he was always on the St. Lawrence doing it. So yeah, he's saying it's all Big Jim's fault.
Gave away all his good spots. That was the end of it.
Exactly. Lawrence, as always, dude, thank you so much for just an informative session. Really appreciate your segment and, of course, your time. And, buddy, have yourself a fantastic week. We look forward to speaking to you next Monday. But in the meantime, enjoy yourself.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good week.
Right on. We will. And we've got Jay Barnucz coming up right after a word from Brad Thompson, who was down on the shores of Lake Erie at Turkey Point Marina discussing a youth tournament that was going on that Jay and I are going to be discussing next. So stay tuned to that.
And Ontario Bass Nation, they're here for their Ontario Youth Provincial Qualifier. Guys, you want to see some young bass fishermen, these ladies, these young guys, they can do it. They're going to get her done this weekend on an unpredictable Lake Erie. We got some wind, we got some rain, but you know what? These kids never cease to amaze me. I weigh a lot of their fish all summer long, and I'll tell you, they got some awesome catches, and they'll be doing it again tomorrow and Sunday. 6:55 a.m., your very own Dan Demeester is going to be singing "O Canada" to all the youths out there and their parents and grandparents. So if you want to come on out and join us for that, we'll be right here on the stage. 3 p.m. Saturday and Sunday is the official weigh-in for the provincial qualifier. Please come and join us and support these kids, man. I'll tell you, you're going to see some awesome captains taking these young people out fishing, and it's so important to the future of our sport and to the marine industry in general. These kids are our future. And then Saturday night, 8 p.m., Jimmy Vinches is going to rock the charity stage at the back and cover all number 2. Yes, we're going to be inside. Can't trust the weatherman. We're going to have the Children's Hospital donation bucket around. The event is sponsored by the Friends of Efro, so everybody come on out, bring your lawn chair. No golf carts or smoking inside, cover all number 2, but it's going to be a great time. It's a great charity. Hey, we're almost at the $300,000 mark, guys, for donating to the London Children's Health Foundation. So with all the donations that we've collected, that's a huge amount, 26 years. Thank you, and it really is all right here at McDonald Turkey Point Marina.
Awesome. Great segue. Brad, thanks so much for that. And Jay, I want to personally thank you, my friend, for bringing some great coverage, some great insight to this tournament as we're going to discuss tonight, but more importantly, for the invite. I would have loved to have made it down on the Sunday, and as it turned out, it was a bit of a wash, but you're going to explain why. First and foremost, Jay, it's an honor to have you here. How you doing, pal?
Good, buddy. I'm good. I got this weird cold thing going on the last, honestly, I've been sick for almost a week, cough and sinus thing. I don't know what's going on. I've been sick in 3 years, so I don't know what's going on. But
well, you may have worked yourself to death. Let's be honest. You're out in that heat. You were wearing yourself to the bone, sweating probably profusely.
Yeah.
I don't. You know what I think it is? I don't think it's enough whiskey. I think I need.
Maybe that could be it. Oh, that could be it. No, it was so this past weekend was awesome, man. That was Brad Thompson. Brad is the general manager of the McDonald Turkey Point Marina here in Turkey Point. So about 20 minutes from the house. And man, I'm going to talk a lot about the event this weekend and our sponsors, but I'll give Brad a big shout out. Brad and the way he runs the marina is just, he doesn't own it. He's the manager. The McDonald family owns the marina, but Brad runs it, and it's a huge marina. It's actually Canada's largest freshwater marina. It is massive. Picture a couple thousand boats anchored up for the whole summer. And so he actually uses the marina as a bit of a platform to raise money for the London Children's Hospital, which he has for a long time, which is fantastic. He puts on a lot of live concerts, and it's kind of a BYOB. You come down, they pass the hat around. A few weeks ago, he actually invited Trevor down. Trevor sold a bunch of his pepperettes. They've been doing the fundraiser for Africa. We'll talk about that at one of Brad's concerts. They get local bands come in. Just a great event. Just to give you some of the hospitality that these kids got this weekend. So the format is these are Ontario's best high school and junior anglers, and so and they're represented by a bunch of different clubs that I'll talk about. I have a little slideshow I'm going to go through to show some of the great pictures of the weekend. But we had 34 teams come out this weekend, so that's 34 boats plus including their captains. All the captains are volunteers. And it's a huge amount of work. Cody Colfax, who is basically the coordinator, president. He does it all for the Erie Bassmasters. And when you host an event like this, a lot of pressure goes on the organizers, but especially someone like Cody, who is making sure, number one, the event goes smooth, but number two, the goal is to make sure all these kids get on the water. And we had kids come from Windsor, from the Border City Club. Petawawa Bassmasters had kids come from Petawawa. Saga City, so Gary and the kids came down from there. We also had Hamilton Bassmasters well represented, and of course Erie Bassmasters. Just an incredible amount of work goes into this, and big shout out to Cody for pulling this off. Anthony and Bianca from Ontario Bass Nation, our youth directors, of course they put a lot of work into this, and this weekend we had help from, oh my God, Chris Corbett, the Waymaster. Brad was our MC. Trevor and I were in charge of fish care and basically running the weigh-in backstage. Bianca recorded the weights. Bianca's mom, Lisa, looked after the photographs. And dude, all of that is amazing. The weather was not. We had a really tough weekend of weather on Saturday. So the format for the tournament for this location is we have the inner bay of Long Point, and then we have the main Lake Erie. And we always open it to the whole lake only if the weather's good, to the main lake. And we have limits on how far they can run, but basically there's a lot of water to fish out there. On Saturday, the winds were pretty marginal. We made the call to make it inner bay only, not just because of winds, but because of pending thunderstorms. And we got lucky because, number one, there were thunderstorms, but they stayed well to the south of Long Point. The anglers on the water could see the storms way off in the distance. We were getting reports from anglers all day, just not negative reports, just asking how are things going, how's the weather, because we were on watch the whole weekend. And then right as we were coming to weigh in at 3:15, we got hit by a big thunderstorm, hail, wind, rain. It was quite the ending for day one. But a lot of fish were caught. The inner bay is a tougher fishery. It's mostly largemouth, whereas the main lake is mostly smallmouth. Unfortunately, that smallmouth bite really didn't play in at all on day one. And then, unfortunately, we knew Sunday weather was looking bad. So what we did was, as a committee, we do this by committee. And when it comes to tournaments like this, someone always has the final say, but we do it by committee. And we were watching the weather forecasts all through the night. Probably, I don't know, dude, probably the fact I was up at 4 a.m. all weekend didn't help me get any better, because I didn't get any rest this weekend. And everyone was doing working the same shift. and we decided to call it off early, probably around 4:30 or 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. But we still had everyone gather for the awards, and the shelter that Brad mentioned where the concert was in the video, I'm going to have photos of that to show you as well, because we were able to have the award ceremony inside, and we still did a great event for the kids on Sunday with awards. Shimano was there. Bob Mahoney was there for the weekend. I got a chance to catch up with Bob. Great to see Bob. Bob's son has fished in this event. Bob's son has gone south before in the U.S. They're a big supporter of this program. So just great to catch up with Bob. I'm going to run through. There's literally dozens of photos. I'm going to share a couple of actually, I won't share it right now, but what I'll do is if you go on Facebook and you go on to the Ontario Junior Bass Nation Facebook page, or the Ontario or Erie Bassmasters Facebook page, a lot of the pictures have been posted. A lot of the clubs I'm going to mention, if you go on their Facebook pages, there's pictures of the kids. And a lot of the anglers themselves, especially the high school anglers, they're all pretty avid on social media. So there's lots of wonderful pictures out of the event. So let's see if I can actually share this here. I'm going to try and do
So
this.
Steph was saying she was Vanna White. Was she turning letters or what was...
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Let me start the slideshow, and then I'll tell you a little story about Stephanie. So what Stephanie does at the event is, let me see if this is going to work. Yeah. Oh, there we go. So what Stephanie does is she does all the weights on the board.
Oh,
so she's our Vanna White. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm sure you know what it's like to have someone on the board doing that. Can you see that picture?
I can't, unfortunately. No, it's not.
Okay, hold on. I'll try another one. Hold on. Let's see if this will work. Maybe I'll just do it this way.
Are you sharing your screen, Jay?
I'm gonna try. I'm trying to share the window.
Okay.
See if this works. How's that?
Nothing yet.
Okay.
No, I don't see anything yet. No.
Chrome tab, entire screen. You know what? We're just going to do it this way. I'm just going to do it this way. It's not going to be as nice as I want, but it'll be fine. We'll just do it like this. This is just my PowerPoint. So, I'm not. I can do PowerPoint in Teams, but I can't get PowerPoint to work on this. But we'll do it like this. This will work just fine, I think.
Can you increase the size of it, Jay, just so we can see the picture a little bit better?
You know what? Yeah, let me try this. Stop sharing. Present. Oh, it's going to ask me to do that. Okay, hold on. I can do this. So
take your time.
Yeah, we'll do this. Let me see here. File. Save as. But yeah, like these kids, they came down from, dude, all across Ontario. They came here for the week.
Oh, they were there for the whole week.
Some of them were here for the whole week. It was honestly amazing that they were able to come down and spend the whole week and learn the lake and do all, like, just they put such amazing time in, and we couldn't have done it without our captains. And one thing I'll add is that the captains themselves, like I said to Cody really makes sure that they have, like, it's hard to get captains for everyone, especially when you're coming from so far. And so we actually did it, Cody did an amazing job of just getting the local captains to come out. So a lot of the captains are local anglers, which helps the youth not only in finding spots, but helps to educate them. Like we can't do it for them, right? We have to, the anglers have to catch the fish themselves. You could park them on fish, but they have to be able to do it themselves, right? So
100%.
All right, let's see if this works.
All right. Yeah.
There.
Oh, yes.
I got it. Okay. So we're going to start off with our champs. Now, let me explain the format. The top 2 high school teams and the top 2 junior teams will go on to the junior national championship and high school national championship in 2027 next year in the US. So these are our winners. In this picture here, we have On the left is Anthony Dubé from Ontario Bass Nation, and on the far right is Cody Colfax from Erie Bassmasters. And these are the two winners. We have Weston Underhill and Dylan Babcock, and they weighed in 17.06 pounds to win the entire event. So big shout out to those two anglers. I know that, and they've put their time in. Not only do these two boys fished well, Erie Bassmasters, the kids in the program do a number of things locally. In the spring pike tournament, these are some of the guys that come out, help run the fish back and forth, they help volunteer on the live release boat. So they're also giving back to the local fishery that way, which is so big shout out to Weston and Dylan. Congrats, guys. So they came in first. And then let's see our next slide here. So our next slide, and you might recognize Radu on the right.
Yep.
And Radu and his partner Rylan, they came in second place with 14.12 pounds. So congrats to those two guys for coming in second place. And you can see Bob's, and a 5-pound kicker. Now a 5-pound bass, sorry for the first team. 5-pound bass is a big largemouth for the Inner Bay. And these kids brought in, we saw quite a few bass in that sort of 4-pound class. And even these weights, even a 14-pound weight for a second place finish, that's actually a good weight for the Inner Bay in August. It can be a tough fishery. And so shout out to them for doing a great job. Now these two young guys, this is I want to get their names right. This is Levi and Tanner from Petawawa, and they placed first on the junior side.
Holy
9.60 pounds, all the way from Petawawa. So shout out to the Petawawa program. And I'm going to give shout out to all the programs, because without the programs, we don't have this event. The programs we need to have these kids involved, and then the OBN puts it together at this final qualifier. So these kids will fish in their local events, and through their local clubs, they come to fish the qualifier. So shout out to Levi and Tanner for finishing in first place. And then in the next slide here, we actually have Levi and Tanner, but they're also teamed up here with Mason and Callum. Mason and Callum here, the two kids on the right, they're our second place winners for the junior division. And they're from the Border City Club, which is out of Windsor, Ontario. So shout out to them for coming out and participating, and congrats to their second place finish. We also have, and you can
before
see
you go on, I know Gary wanted me to make mention of Mason.
Yes.
I believe this is his second year that he's qualified for Team Ontario.
Yes,
and
that's
look
right.
at those bass. Look at those bass.
Yeah, these are great sticks, man. These kids are great sticks. They're little hammers. I was talking with some of the coaches or captains, whatever you want to call them, and these kids are great little sticks. They come up with their own plan. You don't have to tell them much. They figure it out. You just have to put them onto some areas to fish, and they'll figure those fish out, especially those fickle fish in that Inner Bay of Long Point. Okay, now I'm going to get into some sort of group slides here that I think are just awesome. This is the Erie Bassmasters. This is our junior club. These are all the kids. Cody down front. Couldn't be prouder. You can see Claire Bonin in the front row. Claire, the Bonins fish in these events. Hey, Brad, good to see you online tonight. So big shout out to the Bonin family. Ryan was there taking photos. Avery was a captain this year as well as last year. So big shout out to these guys for what they do. The Bonin family, such great supporters of it. Oh, and thanks, Stephanie. Shout out to John Rodsky from the Long Point Bay Anglers for what he does in the live release boat. God, it's such a thankless job. I won't get everyone in, I'm sure, but it means so much to take this program Cody did from just a few kids a few years ago to the size of this club. And, and actually there's a couple, we'll get towards the end of my talk here, but there's a couple of these kids that are also going to go to Africa with Trevor in Zimbabwe this fall. So just amazing. Shout out to Saga City. Look at these guys, man. Like, great representation for Saga City this year. Shout out to Gary's was one of those guys too, who's always there and always helping out.
Yeah.
If you need something, he had a tent that we could use. some of the moms were selling snacks. So shout out to I've been calling the Zimbabwe moms. They have a whole WhatsApp group, and they're selling chips and selling snacks to raise money. They're helping any way they can. And dude, you've been involved with minor sports. I know that. Without the support of parents, these programs don't run. And so, they needed a tent to cover the snack table. Gary had a tent. Dude, we just pull this together. It's just such a great, I don't know, man, it just warms my heart when everyone jumps in and pitches in like that. It's just amazing. This is Kawartha chapter. So shout out to Curtis Cronkrite up in the Kawartha area and getting these kids out in the water. One of their captains, Tristan Kruchek, who went to Georgia with Trevor last year. Tristan came and stayed at our house. He brought his boat. He went out, captained the kids. Shout out to Nolan Isaac, who competed last year. Nolan is helping Simon Frost to run the St. Catharines Junior program this year. And Nolan came to help volunteer at the tournament. Nolan ran fish for us this weekend and stayed at our house. So the boys were all here talking. When they weren't volunteering, dude, they were talking fishing all night here at the house. It was just fantastic. So shout out to Kawartha. Shout out to Mike Small in the middle here. Mike Small, as Hamilton Bassmasters, has always had a junior program of some kind. He's really dug his heels in to get it more in line with what's going on with the other clubs, with boats and captains. Great showing from Hamilton this weekend, and fantastic showing from them. And again, shout out to Petawawa, shout out to Border City. And if I missed any other clubs, let me know, and I apologize. So this is what we did on Sunday morning. We said at 8:00 we're going to do presentations. This is just a wide angle shot of us in the boat coverall. So at the marina, Brad has these giant coveralls that he stores boats in the wintertime. But if you need a venue inside at a marina, like you want to do a drive-through weigh-in, dude, at a marina, look at this. Like you can fit 80 boats in here. So when Bob showed up with his truck, he parked out front, and I go, no, Bob, follow me. You're bringing the truck right inside. He goes, I like the sound of that. So Bob brought the truck right in. He actually unloaded. He had 60 Zealous rods, one for every angler that came. So Bob handed those out. We had a speech from Bob, which was great. But this was just kind of the layout in the big covered area. And there's Bianca and Anthony as well. So
right on.
I'll just finish with this. This is just half of the team going to Zimbabwe. Trevor wanted to take a moment to thank Anthony, and there'll be a lot of thanks for Anthony and all the helpers. But this event was so important to getting. This is the first time some of these boys have met in person. They've been having Zoom calls.
Okay.
So this event allowed them to get together and just they didn't have time to talk, but shake hands and see each other. This is, again, about half the team going to Zimbabwe this fall. And Trevor and the guys on stage wanted just a chance on the mic to thank Anthony for all the hard work. Dude, he's booking the flights. He's checking the passports. He's making all the arrangements. Everything's happening. It's amazing. And I know as we get closer to this event, we'll do some special things with CFN. But it was just great to have these guys on stage. Just a chance to thank Anthony and I think it just do the right thing. So yeah, there you go. That's it. That's all I got, man. That's all I got for pictures anyways, but I'm happy to talk more about the event for sure.
Jay, that is great segment. Way to put all this together and of course promote what is already an incredible event and just take it to the next level. This is truly what grassroots fishing should look like. I know a lot of people will say, well, yeah, but it's a tournament. There's a competitive side of things. Listen, kids these days need competition. When they go out fishing, yeah, they might just go for fun, but they always want to be the one to catch the biggest fish. And by providing them a venue like this, because let's be honest, we've been in awe with our counterparts to the south. on what they have been able to do for bass fishing and for kids, schools, and colleges and all that. It is so nice to see us doing the same thing on this side of the border. Maybe not at the same level, but you know what? We can only do what we can do. And to all involved, including yourself, Jay, thanks for your sacrifice, because this is just making the future that much brighter.
Yeah, it was quite the weekend. Like we talked before the show, this weekend was the worst weather we've had all summer. We've had some storms come through, but you know, a lot of the weather systems that we saw this summer, Scotty, were like one afternoon, one night, done. Next day was okay. We had, even today, it's raining here now. Like we have just had, this past 3 days have been really bad weather. I was talking to Cody before the show about the weekend and just reflecting on it. And the biggest regret we have is just not showing off how good the fishing is here because of the weather. But we had to make the right call. And it even hurts more because some of these kids, you know, they were in contention. It's a 2-day tournament. And, you know, 1 or 2 key bites on Sunday could have put kids up, because you can only take the top 2 from each division, right? And so some kids, without that day 2, they didn't get a second day on the water. So that really sucks. But we did the right thing for sure. We heard no negative things from the parents about canceling day 2. I think everyone was consensus on that one. But it still hurts that you couldn't get them out there for one more day. You know what I mean? Right. So, but you know what? It shows it just shows their determination. And at the end of the day, and Cody said this in the chat, it's just like Christmas, man, for these kids. And all the volunteers feed off of that. They really do, man. It really makes it worthwhile. And I'm not sure where the event's going to be next year, but I hope that I hope Erie tries to host an event like this again for junior clubs, and what's great is the stage that you saw Brad standing on, he has that stage set up all summer. And so I encourage anyone, if you want to hold a bass tournament at a Turkey Point Marina, you got a free stage. If you want to use it, it's right there. It's for anybody. There's concerts on it, but it's a fishing stage. That's what it's for. And so if anybody wants to come down, whether you're holding a club tournament, you want to hold a kids event, reach out to Turkey Point Marina, and they're the gracious hosts. And shout out to Erie Bassmasters, Terry Wilson, the president. You know how it's $20 a shot to launch a boat, right? Erie Bassmasters covered the cost of boat launches this weekend for the coaches. So that was Terry's suggestion. I was like, that is an awesome suggestion. A lot of the coaches and captains, they're traveling from far too. Like the Raytrowskis are coming from Komoka, London area. You know, people are coming from afar, and just having that paid for was just wonderful too. So man, the whole community came together. And I think that's what I really enjoy about working down here on these events is it is a community that pulls it together. Dude, the same thing up when you do events like up at Spanish River, and it's the whole community, man. You walk into a store and you're wearing the right colors, everyone is happy to see you there, and they're welcoming, and it's small towns like this that really drive the industry, really do. And it's great to see that.
You're so right, and not to take away from any of the spotlight on this event, but you're 100% with what I had the honor and privilege to do with the NOWT, of course, with the NCAA and various other standalone events, whether as an MC or just a volunteer. What I am really taken back, especially in our North Country, and it's so nice to see it happening down here in the South as well, is how much the community is coming together. Because at the end of the day, it's a celebration not only of the kids and fishing, but also of the community itself. And when you are able to put on an event like that and have so many hands, you know, helping out, so many wheels moving at the same time, and it to be flawless, and the only thing that could possibly ruin it is the weather. You know what? Kudos to all of you, because at the end of the day, no one can beat Mother Nature. Mother Nature has the trump card. But you certainly help put on a great event, regardless of the outcome from a weather standpoint. John's asking a great question. Is this event on Lake Erie every day? I think you mentioned that it does move.
So John, over the years, when Trevor fished it for 3 years, I was up at Pigeon Lake and up at the north end of Pigeon near Nogies Creek. And it was run there. Erie offered to host it, and that's why it got moved. But it's just really, it's a venue. If anybody wants to host an event, they can put it. Basically, it's like putting in a bid. And Erie put in a bid to host, and that's how we got it there. And that's how, with the Ontario Bass Nation, that's how most of the qualifiers are. The locations are selected is because you need. It's not so much the fishery. You need the location. It has to have certain things. The fish is not first. As long as the lake has fish in it, that's good. You need the fish there. But then you also need to have the docking, the launching. You need to have the stage. You need the volunteers. And without those connections, good events don't become good events or become great events. You need the help to do that. And I think that's what's critical. And so, but if there's groups out there that would love to host an event like this, like, reach out to the Ontario Bass Nation. They would love to hear from you. And what's nice about, and of course I said this to Cody on the weekend, it's kind of like when you host the Olympics, right? When you host the Olympics, you hope that your local athletes do well, right? You're putting it in their favor. So you want to host because you want your local athletes to do well, which is really important. 100%. And I think that any club should host. So Border City, that's great. So they want to host it next year in Lake St. Clair. So that's amazing. And so obviously the Border City anglers will have a bit of an advantage. The Erie, actually, a lot of the Erie events, they hold a couple of events every year on St. Clair, so that's great for the Erie kids. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that other anglers don't do well. Look at Saga City. What Cody has done with Erie is when he hosts a junior event. I say junior, that includes high school and junior, a youth event. It doesn't have to be a qualifier, just a regular Saturday tournament. It's open to anybody who wants to come fish it. So if Saga City wants to send a team down, or if I'm sure that next year, if it's on St. Clair, and if Cody's hosting an event down there, anyone will be invited to come down and fish it, and they'll get them some time on the water to learn that lake. So, and everyone supports everybody. There's the camaraderie and the brotherhood of these kids and their parents. It's pretty motivating. I won't lie. It's cool. Pretty motivating.
John's got a good question in the comment section here. I'd be interested in taking a team of kids from Manitoulin Island to one of these events. With that being said, how does one qualify, and can anybody join these events?
Yeah. So John, that's a good question. So you don't have to join a club. What Anthony did this year is, because we have so many clubs across Ontario, but not everywhere. Like we have like six clubs right now for the high school side. You can join. He started, I believe he calls it like membership at large. So like an online club. So you can still become an Ontario Bass Nation member. So you have to be a Bass Nation member. The kids have to be Bass Nation members. And all you have to do is just sign up as a Bass Nation member, pay the membership dues, which is basically a magazine subscription. And once you do that, and then it's a virtual club. Thanks, Cody. And so you can sign up virtually. So John, if you have a couple kids from Manitoulin that would enjoy participating in an event like this, that's all you need. That's all you need. Join the Ontario Bass Nation through the virtual club, and then come on down to the qualifier. You don't have to qualify to fish the qualifier in theory. You just have to be a coach and 2 kids. That's all you need. And then preferably from the same age division. So whether they're from the junior division, which is 12 and under, or high school, which is 13 to 18.
Awesome stuff. Well, Jay, take a breath because you've been talking. That was fantastic. And you certainly have done Bassmaster Club's a great honor by mentioning this. Of course, you have certainly highlighted all those who have had a helping hand in making this a great event. But A big shout out to you, and I know not enough is said, and I know you're humble, you're just like me, but shout out to you as well as the entire Barnucz family for supporting stuff like this, because at the end of the day, it's great to have the Codys, it's great to have the Scotty Martins, but without the Jade Barnucz, without the Lawrence Gunthers, without, you know, all of your Gary De Silvas running around, you know, it's a puzzle, and it will only look good if there's enough pieces to put it all together, and you are definitely one of them. So big shout out to you.
Well, and you know what, having a platform like CFN, Scotty, and you and the whole team being able to give, you know, it means a lot. I know for a lot of the folks, not just who are watching tonight, who will watch the replay of this, to hear about these events, like they love it. They love it, and I love being able to talk about it. Hey, I'll talk about any big issue out there in the fishing world, and we do talk about most issues on this show. But when I get to plug my little world down here a little bit, I love doing that, man, because it takes a village. It takes a village.
It certainly does. It certainly does.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to ask, was that all you had to talk about?
Honestly, that's really all I had, man. I'm still like, probably like Cody and Brad and everyone else, I'm still like, don't take this the wrong way, I'm detoxing from the weekend. Like, it's like you're coming down from a great weekend. It's just such a positive weekend. I haven't even thought about what I'm doing this week or next weekend, but definitely it was just a fantastic weekend, and I'm glad I got to share it with you and everyone else on here tonight, and to give these young anglers a good shout out, because they deserve it, because they fished their butts off in a one-day shootout on the Inner Bay at Long Point.
I will say I couldn't agree more, and Mason, it was an honor to do this edit for you, because as I said, those are some incredible looking bass. But let's hope we can repeat this next year, no matter where it is, whether it's in St. Clair, whether it's up on Pigeon, or it's at Scotty's Honey Hole. Either way, let's hope that we're able to replicate this, and Mother Nature cooperates.
Yeah.
Jay,
right.
Listen, I know you're not feeling well. You've spent a lot of time here tonight, and I know it's been a bit of a struggle with your voice and whatever, so we're going to let you go a little early. We want to thank you so much for all you do and continue to do for our community, our industry, and for anglers at large. But true tip of the hat to you, pal.
Thanks to you, buddy, and thanks for everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Right on, Jay. Have a great night, pal.
All right.
So that is the end of our show. As I said, I can't thank Jay enough, because I know he's not feeling 100%. And as busy as he's been, along with all those volunteers, they certainly want a night off, and deservedly so. So we will honor that, and we will honor you folks by not taking you past the 2-hour mark. Folks, at the end of the day, get out fishing, but more so than that, make sure you're taking somebody along with you, someone that you can imprint the passion for angling, like these volunteers, like these coaches, like these mentors, like these captains have done. Sacrifice a little bit of time, and it's amazing what could come of it. Because at the end of the day, this world needs a heck of a lot more positivity than it has right now. And it's all up to you. It's simple. And when you see stuff like this, it just, oh man, I tell you, it encourages your faith that there's still a lot of good out there in this world. So a big shout out to all of you for all that. Thanks again for all of your great comments, all of your support. And of course, don't forget about signing up to the CFN app. We really appreciate all the support that we're currently getting and continue to get with it, because this is the future. When it comes to education, we really need to jump on this, because this is what is going to hopefully push people in the right direction when it comes to learning the rules, understanding the regs, and following them. With that being said, thanks to everybody. I love you all. Have yourselves a great week. We will probably see you on Wednesday for the Power Hour. Until then, take care. All the best. Cheers.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.